Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. I tell you now, here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here comes the West Indies. Special request to the Trini posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica posse?
England was in trouble from the very start. Holland mighty Griffith really broke their heart. At 100 miles per hour, they made the ball flight. The Englishman ball umpire, we appeal for light. Ball Griffith, don't stop at all. Ball Griffith, give him back the ball. Ball Griffith, Sobers and Hall. Bring Gibson on. Murray broke the record at 20 years old. Everybody vote him the best in the world. They mention great wicket keeping, but nothing like that. They say he's an acrobatic human tiger cat. I don't stop at all. I said to give it back the ball. Warren and Hall. Yeah, bring it on all. Yes, to win at Headingley, that was England aim, because we were jostling with the points the same. Dexter continued with spinners, Warren went for speed. With the pace of Hall and Griffith, man, we took the lead. Everybody, Hall, don't stop at all. Give it back the ball. So Buzz and Hall, and bring Gibson on. Well, last test on the Oval, there we had some thrill. 10,000 West Indians waiting for the kill. 100 gave them a century, and I had a share. We actually cruised to victory, 8 wickets to spare. Everybody, ball, don't stop at all. Give it back the ball. Warren and Hall, bring Gibson on.
They were about to be rewarded by a quite magnificent display of batting. It was the start of the second day, and Greenwich and Haynes, who had not built a serious partnership in the whole series, were about to produce something special.
Fantastic shot.
Well, that is silly bowling. I mean, after the bounce at the Greenwich, you can bet your bottom dollar. Look at Haynes, he's waiting for it. He's on the back foot before he bowls, Desmond Haynes. And I've mentioned before, one of the great hookers in world cricket.
Into the gap on the offside, and he's not bothering to run for that because he knows it's come off the bat, right off the meat of the bat and into the gap on the offside. Lovely shot. Gladstone Small string in length this time. Beautiful stroke through the offside by Desmond Haynes. That's through the gap. Hossain is obviously quicker than Capel. Overtook him on the way down to the boundary. And so a little bit of music because of the boundary. And that brings up 7,000 runs for Gordon Greenidge. 7,000 runs. He's the 12th man in the history of Test cricket to reach that milestone. And what's more, he's only the 4th West Indian. He's been a great player, this man. That's through the gap as well. Don't bother running for that. Magnificent shot there by Haynes. He really is getting stuck into anything just outside off stump. That wasn't that short. He hit it on the up eventually. And Desmond Haynes is 5th 4 of the innings. Beautiful shot through the offside. Again, not bothering to run. He knew he had struck it nicely.
Well, that's an authoritative shot by Greenidge. He hammered it. A cue for the music. He really put back the ball. It's in the air, but it's gone. A long way. Out of the ground. 6 for Haynes in commanding form.
Well, it went many a mile. You couldn't say he middled that. It flew off the top of the bat, or top of the blade. It went much higher than he thought. But that's the Small down there. Was never in any doubt at all. It was going high, high up in the trees and away.
Oh, that's down the ground. He's really hit that off the meat of the bat, and it's gone straight over the top for 6. Well, Greenidge opening his shoulders there and hit that one straight down the ground.
Well, that's a tremendous shot. David Capel was bowling a tremendous over there, kept the ball on the length, but he's got this one a bit fuller, and Greenidge has just hit straight through the line of it from outside off stump, caught it right in the middle of the bat, and I'm afraid the bowler knows when someone hits one like that where it's going, and that's gone straight over the boundary for 6. Tremendous shot.
Capel to Haynes. Straight through mid-on for 4. So Haynes moves on to 44. He's looking in good form.
Yes, he is. Anything that's slightly over-pitched, both these West Indian batsmen are capitalising on. I mean, that ball's fullish. It's just outside off stump. A typical Desmond Haynes shot. He's worked it through the onside. There's always going to be 4.
A lovely on drive by Haynes. He really is playing beautifully. That's his 7-4. And he now moves on to 49. Just fractionally short, and Greenidge dispatches it down through mid-wicket. It's a local character here, known as Mayfield. And there are the landmarks, the 100 partnership, and Desmond Haynes is 50. Simultaneous. That'll go. 4 more. So Greenwich joins Haynes on a half century in his 100th Test match.
Okay.
And then you drop it short.
Okay.
And wide of the off stump.
Okay.
Tremendous shot. Yeah, give it a shine, mate. If you're any good, you could have the next over at the pavilion end.
That's a huge hit. That is a ginormous hit. Straight back overhead. Greenwich is second six off Capel.
You can't afford to go up too much to this man, Greenwich, on this sort of a pitch. He just leant into that one. Complete follow through, full follow through. Beautiful shot.
And just for a bit of variety, a square cut. Well, he started to pick things up again.
He's going for it. This could be close. Will there be a run out? No, he's gone for 100. He's got a magnificent 100. Gordon Greenwich has made 100 in his 100th Test match. And they're running on the ground from all directions. That bloke's got his umbrella with him. Wow, she's enjoyed it too, I tell you. She's in the process of giving it some real movement up there. Let's have another look at this very special moment in the career of Gordon Greenwich. A quick single in his 100th Test match, and he really did enjoy that. That's cut into the gap for 4. Magnificent shot. So another 4 to Greenwich. And that guy down there just giving the ball a bit of a shine. Giving England a little bit of help. So that's gone past the record now between these two countries for the first wicket. The first wicket record was 206. They've taken it to 210. Desmond Haynes now on 99. He scored 13 Test match centuries. Will this be his 14th, or will he be trapped? He's played it down to third man. He's got it. 2 in a row. Well played, Desmond Haynes. There he is again. I told you he was a good dancer, but he's not a good runner. However, he's made his way out to the centre. And he's giving Desmond Haynes a shake of the hand. Hundreds back to back. One in Barbados in the second innings, and this is how he brought up the one here in Antigua. So both West Indian openers in this, their first innings of the last Test match, the decider, have scored 100. Oh, and that's a short delivery, pulled away, and over the fence it goes. A magnificent pull shot. A magnificent pull shot for 6. Just carried the fence down there, but what timing from Greenwich. Have another look at this.
Beautiful shot. Just medium pace, short of a length. Tremendous blow.
Magnificent drive by Haynes. We saw a number of those yesterday, and that's another one for 4.
Oh, he smashed that one straight down the ground, flat, one bounce into the fence. And that really was a brute force shot. It was played from around about off stump, perhaps even just outside. Greenwich cutting loose.
Well, there's nothing to say about that. That wasn't a bad ball. That's just a batsman feeling he wants to really get after the bowler. Good length ball, outside off stump, quite a few inches outside.
And that one just past the stumps, and that brings up the 296, and it hasn't gone unnoticed by some of the crowd here. That equals the partnership they put together on this ground against India. So one more.
Good evening and welcome to West Indies Cricket 101 on a Sunday evening. Of course, we've been absent for a couple of weeks, but we're back today. And please share the link. Please share the link. Please share the link. We started off tonight with Lord Kitchener. Is Calypso on the 1963 series. West Indies won that series against England, and Lord Kitchener singing the Calypso. The beautiful thing about Caribbean music, in particular Calypso, is the way in which it chronicles events. You were a youngster, you weren't around in 1963, just go and listen to some Calypso, and it will tell you what happened in 63, what happened in 65, what happened in 66. And then, of course, we saw the Masters there, arguably the greatest opening pair in the history of the game. Gordon Greenidge and Desmond Haynes there against England in Antigua. I think that was in 1990. Please share the link and let everyone know we're here. Good evening to you, Dr. Adams.
Good evening, Dr. Hines, and good evening to our listeners. And how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Now, as you looked at that clip with Haynes and Greenidge, are we going to see that skill, commitment, and conversation between players and the spectators? I call it conversation because there is a conversation going on. Are we ever going to see that combination again?
Well, there's always hope, and it everything comes down to whether it's cricket or are you running an organization. It comes down to leadership with the vision, and things have changed, as we have discussed so frequently in this program, in terms of the players and the way that they're being the way that the management handles them, or they handle the management. So I still have some hope that we're probably going to get back someday to where there could be some compromise between the players and the administration, to let the players understand. Like in those days that you just showed there, Greenidge and Haynes, as we always talk about, they were different days. Those guys played, they represented their country. They represented their country, and they were conscious of that. Anytime they walked out there, it was the West Indies. They were playing, and it was part of that culture. The culture has changed now, sad to say, but it's about money, as we all know. You know what's interesting, and why I say there is still hope, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I don't know if you saw the interview here. I think I saw it this week with Sammy.
Sammy, yes.
And he said something very, very instructional there. He said, and when the question was asked, I wish the question was followed up, that he's in talks with players to see if they're going to come and play Test cricket. As a matter of fact, he even singled out that he said he's talking to one player. I would have followed up, but even though he didn't give an answer, I would have followed, well, okay, do you mind telling us who that player is or who those players are? So, But my point is, Dr. Hines, I don't think here. I understand that, he's doing a good faith effort in talking to these guys. But why do we? That is telling me you're begging folks to come and play for their country. If somebody is going to represent their country, you don't have to beg them. This is something that should be in you. Your country is part of you. Your country is what made you. And this is not only a country, by the way. This is an entire region of several countries. So if you've got to beg them and negotiate, I made some really crass and but on sympathetic with these guys. But to me, if you've got to beg somebody to represent your country, I don't think they're not going in there with their heart and soul. And that's what those are names that you're seeing there. Those players are going in there with their heart and soul. They're representing a nation or an entire region. So, but there's still hope. Like I said, as long as there's life, as they say, there's hope. So we may get back there someday, and we may not. Who knows?
Who knows? I share your sentiment. I listened very carefully to Sammy, and he said he's one player, but the reports mentioned a couple of players. Sammy, Hope Etmire, King, and I think Puran were the names that were mentioned. Whether in fact he's speaking to them, I don't know. But I share your view as a proud West Indian, very proud West Indian. I find it nauseating that we have to beg people to represent their country. Something is not right with that. And I'm in sympathy with the players like you are. I wish if somebody could inject some money in university professorship, and I can make more money. Because everybody wants to make money. But whether it's more money or what money we are earning now, we have a commitment to the profession and a commitment to our country and to our people. And so if you get more money, you're going to welcome it, but money is not going to be the common denominator. Unfortunately, that's where things are. And cricket, as all of us know, Dr. Adams, is not an individualistic sport. It's a collective sport.
Absolutely.
You see? And what we have are players who are behaving and acting as individual agents in a sport that is a collective endeavor. Now, you can't have the collective without the individual. The collective is the sum total of the individual. But when you were playing, how did your generation make that balance between the individual commitment and the collective? I remember Ken Barrington making, was it a double century and dropped by England for being too selfish. I remember criticisms of Jeff Boycott for being too selfish when he used bat. And this is from England, which I think went to the heart of how do you balance the individual accomplishments and the accomplishments of the team. How did your generation strike that balance?
Well, it always comes down to personality. Everybody has a different personality, and I have played with players who, you think that it's all about themselves. It's about their numbers, etc. But for the most part, though, Dr. Hines, because when you're out there, or when you don't see color, you don't see race or anything. The most important thing for any athlete who's got their heart and soul into that game is to win. And you don't care who make the 100 while the game is on. Now, when you're playing in a trial match, for example, there's no, no allegiance to your trial match team because it's just a random selection of players. So as a matter of fact, you're hoping that your competition fails and you make the runs. And so when you go out there and you're batting or you're bowling, it's about, it's about yourself. But when you're playing for your country, it's a totally different thing because it's no small matter when you're in front of your home crowd and you get out there and you're not doing, let's say your team is losing, or that entire team, and especially if you're one responsible for losing or you contributing to losing, you're in serious trouble. However, if you are contributing to the winning part of it, you suddenly become a hero. So your first thing is to play for your team. And here's where it starts with Dr. Hines. That's why I'm glad that even Clive has talked about bringing up back school cricket, because you see, when you start representing your school, you're playing for something. It's a stiff competition. Going back to your early teens, you're playing for your school. You want to win. I remember we used to have some really serious competition in school cricket up in Linden, with Christianborg School playing, Mackenzie School playing, Wisma School, Comaco. And I remember in the finals, we beat Mackenzie, and I got carried off the field because I made 65. We were chasing down some runs. I made 65 not out. And you know who took me off of the field? All the girls. They came and lifted me. Not the men, the girls. Now, those are the kinds of things, because I represented that entire school. And then you play our cricket after you play for your school. Then they would pick a combined team for Upper Demerara. You play for Upper Demerara, then they would pick a combined team up with Demerara, East Bank, etc., and then you get onto the national team. But each of those, it's a big deal to represent your school, your district, whatever it is. And I've always said, even in the local cricket in Guyana, it's only now that people come from all over the country and play for various clubs. Like GCC would bring in people from Berbice. In the old days, most of the people who play, let's say, in Queenstown for DCC, were from Queenstown. If you play, GSC was the East Coast. A lot of East Coast players used to come down to GSC. And, of course, Indians, Everest, was an all-Indian team. Mackenzie, everybody came from there. So even when you're playing for those teams, you're playing for your district or your area. So that instills in you, it's automatic, Dr. Hines, that you've got something in that you feel that when you play out there, you're playing for not you but for your community, and that pride in your community and loyalty to your community makes a big difference from the time you start cricket, as you advance from your school to your district to your region to national. So that pride in playing for other people. And that is why I think school cricket, and Clive is onto something. Clive has already talked about bringing back school cricket. It builds that pride in you that is, you can't quantify it.
You can't quantify it. And of course, I've made reference there to Ken Barrington, who was dropped for taking 7.5 hours to make 137, and he was promptly dropped. All right. I think, I can't remember whether England won the game. I knew it was against New Zealand. And he took 7.5 hours to make 137, and they promptly dropped him because the balance there between the individual and the collective. Let me take you back to Greenidge and Haynes as the opening pair, the preeminent opening pair, not just for the West Indies, but I suppose all-time great opening pairs, and they've been great opening pairs in the game. But as you watched Haynes and Greenidge there as an opening batsman, what does it take to build that kind of that kind of pair, that kind of communication between players? What does it take to make a great opening pair?
A great opening pair. Well, first of all, you gotta have the ability, and it takes, and I'm sure I'm sure that, and I've never been on tour with them, but I'm pretty sure that they probably room together. In those days, you never used to have your own room, by the way. Maybe three of you might even room, but I'm pretty sure that they might have even been rooming together. So you build that camaraderie and brotherhood, and especially if you're successful as a peer. I mean, you just get to, you just feel as if, a lot of times you become family in a team, and that's why, when you go on tour, you learn. So just going on a tour, I remember when I went on a tour with the Guyana team, when I came back, I was a much improved player, just on tour with both the U team and the national team. When you go on tour, you come back, because remember, you got your best in the country bowling to your nets, and so that improvement that you never had before, because you got all the best bowling to you as a batsman, and then of course the bowlers they're bowling to the best batsmen. But it takes a lot of camaraderie, and the other thing is too, you see the two batsmen, if they complement each other, like Greenidge and Haynes. Greenidge was more of a, for want of a better word, like more of a master blaster. Greenidge, while Haynes was a more, he was more cautious, and even though he wasn't slow in his scoring, but Greenidge was the one who took it to the bowlers, while Haynes played a slower type of inning,
kind of anchor.
So yes. If you can complement each other like that, and you understand, for example, like if, let's say, Greenidge gets out, and for some reason Haynes has to pick up the tempo, he will. If he realizes, well, okay, here's my, I've been here longer than even Ron Kanai comes in, right? He would say, well, and those are the kinds of understanding that you have. If you were here before, and your eyes are in, and let's say Greenidge, who was going and I was, staying around, and now Greenidge is gone, now you pick up the tempo, because you know that you're the ones who your eyes are in. And so those are the kinds of understanding, the tacit understanding that you have. And those are the expectations, especially if you're playing as a team. Those are the expectations. So if a player decides that he wants to be selfish, it's easily recognized by the team. I mean, you hear all the time and they're very far and few in between. It's not a case where most of the players are selfish. That's not the case at all. But you can identify a few, and I mean, we hear about a few here that people, say that Chandra Paul, for example, has been, even among his peers, has been very selfish. I never played with him or these guys, and it's because he scores slower, I guess, and a lot of times he should score faster in their opinion. But it's that chemistry that you develop from knowing somebody and being close to them, and you get to love each other, and when somebody fails, you feel sorry, you yourself, it's just like if you feel, and when they're successful, you also feel the same about them, and they feel the same about you. So is that camaraderie and chemistry that you develop.
Yeah. Let me put this theory to you. Clearly, Greenidge was what you could call the complete batsman.
Yes.
The complete opening batter. I think only Conrad Hunt, in terms of our openers, was as complete as Greenidge.
Totally agree. Agree.
And Haynes, who was no slouch, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
He had shots. He could score fast when he wants to score fast. But I think his recognition that Greenidge was the complete batsman. He had all the strokes, he had everything. I think helped to mold the Haynes in a particular way. That Haynes picked up that niche, grew into that niche, with having this complete batsman at the other end. And I say that because I remember when Haynes burst on the scene, he was quite attacking. In fact, the innings that he played to get into the West Indies team was a one-day match, and he fouled backers, and a number of them were vying for this one opening spot. And Haynes blasted 100 and something, and the rest is history. So I'm saying that over the period of time, given the fact that Greenidge was the complete batsman, that Haynes worked out for himself a role that will complement Greenidge.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely, and that's exactly what I was saying. It's here and which helped. It helped Haynes, because then Haynes just had to he just had to play his correct, the game that he feels comfortable, especially with Greenidge at the end. You don't need both of them, going after the runs. And that was Greenidge's style. And Greenidge wasn't a swiper. He played really great shots. As a matter of fact, he played a lot in front of the wicket, good hooker and stuff like that. But Haynes, that allowed Haynes to take his time. And you always teach your batsmen, take your time, and when you get a loose ball, you dispatch it. You play defensively to the good balls, and when you get the loose balls, you attack it. So Haynes was allowed to develop. Let's say suppose Haynes had come in Fredo time, and even in Hunt time, where you didn't have, they change batsmen, they change your partner every just like as if you're changing clothes. Then he would have had to play a totally different game.
Yeah.
He would have had to play, and who knows, it wouldn't have developed him in that manner, I don't think. But Greenidge helped him. He can concentrate, he can focus, and develop his game however he feel comfortable. Because at the other end, he's got a man who's gonna keep the scoreboard ticking.
Let me ask you. You were an opening batter. Were you always an opener?
No, I batted at 3, so it's kind of like opening coming up to in school cricket.
Mm-hmm.
I started batting at 3, and the interesting is when I played in the first under 19 for Guyana, which was the first under 19 tournament that they had for the West Indies, and in 1966, and believe it or not, I made the team as an off spinner.
Okay.
Because you see, we were isolated. In those days was the RH, you had to travel by RH car to come to town. I was only 16 years old, and it's a school teacher of mine, a young school teacher by the name of Cyril Campbell. He took me, begged my mother to take me down the Friday night, came down. The Saturday they had trials at Central High, and he said, "Hey, I've got the best batsman of everybody." Just a lot of making a whole bunch of nice. So the selectors who were there, they said, "Okay, let's take a look at this guy." So I got in there and made like 24, and then he whispered in my ear. He said, something? I don't see any off spinners in this team. In all the trial matches, I don't see any off spinner. At the time, I used to bowl a little off spin in school cricket. So he started bigging me up now as an off spin, and I went in there and I got like 4 wickets. And so I made it as an off spin. I batted at number 7 in the team when we went on tour, but that was not my position. And then I came back afterwards, and the next year in 68, I came back as an opening batsman, because when I started playing for Mackenzie, that's what I started doing. Started opening batting. So I really started opening batting in the under 19 in 1968 in Barbados, and that's where I made my name. And I got a lot of fans such as Everton Weeks and Wes Hall and those folks. Who knows? After the accident, as a matter of fact, it was then after Greenidge and Haynes came after me, after I left the scene. But no, I was not. I batted at 3, and then I went to open, and the thing is, when you're in different positions, is more psychological, to be honest. Like in my, and I tell folks all the time, it's easier for a batsman to move from a lower order to open than for an opener to move down the order, because
talk me through that. Talk me through that.
Yeah, I had an experience.
That is something I've always been intrigued by.
Yeah. And I, the thing is, when you're opening, it's not, it's a special, it's hard to explain. It's a special psyche in your mind. For example, while the other team is batting, and you get down to the 8th wicket or so, you already start thinking, and if it gets late in the afternoon, you worry like hell, because you don't want to go and take no 2 overs or 1 over, or whatever it is. So you program yourself, as soon as you go off the field, you're coming back out to bat. Now, if you're used to, as an opener, when they put you down in order, you're not used to be sitting there waiting in your pad.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember, when I can't remember when was it, in this early 70s, when I had the accident and I came back after the accident. My first big game was an inter-county game in Bubis. 120 something I made at Kanji, and we didn't have trials. And so you would expect that in the county game is the game that you're going to pick the team from, So I made 100, just come back from after the accident. And when they picked the team, when we go into the trials, we had one trial game. So I think it was Lance came to me and said, my events, you got Fredo and Stephen, and you can get bat down in the order if anything. So that's where they put me at number 3. So I'm sitting there in the pavilion now in a pad, and this thing was totally strange to me. So when it was time for me to bat now, guess what? I'm used to, when I go there, you've got fast bowlers and the ball is seaming. And here it is, a guy throwing the ball up in the air. That's not the force of the deliveries that I'm used to. It's slow. It was totally different. So, and that's why I say it's easier to me to move up the order to opening, because a lot of times you're batting down in the middle, and then you go in there and a new ball comes in. So you get new ball bowling in the nets, etc. But it's totally different in terms of sitting there waiting, as opposed to as soon as you get out there, you got to go back. For example, a number 3 batsman, let's say a number 2 batsman pad up, and the first ball that the opener, let's say the first ball that the opener gets out, that's not a problem for the number 3. Even though they got to face that new ball early, but it's a psychological thing, because the number 3 batsman, even though that they don't open, they say now they're playing an opening role because they've got to go face that new ball, and it might even be number 4 if you lose some quick wickets. They're used to that, but for an opening batsman to be sitting in the pavilion is a totally different thing. I mean, like I told you, I experienced that, and it's a psychological thing that is. Yeah.
Of course, there were some people who started at number 3 and then went up and did well opening. Kanai was tried opening thing, but Lawrence Rowe, who was number 3, but opened, in fact, is 302. That phenomenal innings in Barbados, he did it as an opener. And then later on, Richie Richardson, who was the number 3, opened with Ains. As we got into the 1990s and Greenidge had retired, there was no obvious replacement, and Richardson moved up and opened. Those are the 3 instances.
It's easier to do that. But I don't know if you know of any case of anybody from opening, move down the order. That's a different thing. Of course, after a while you probably get used to it and you can adjust.
Yeah. Kumash after his injury.
Yeah,
that's in 1973.
But he never did.
He never regained his touch after then. But he moved on from opening.
It's a different thing.
Let's see here. Somebody had a question for you on Kumash, and what do you think Yes, your thoughts, Dr. Adams' thoughts on the Frederick Comash partnership. When I started following cricket in the late 60s, early 70s, Fredericks and Comash were the opening pair, and every little opening in the village wanted to be a Fredericks or a Comash. What do you think of that partnership?
Two different types of players, and if you want to talk about like a Greenidge Haynes, I guess a Comash Fredericks is another good example where they complement each other. Except that Stephen was. We always said he's probably the most correct batsman that we had in Guyana at the time. Very, very correct, getting in position. But he never had the guts that Stephen that Fredo had. I mean, Stephen, if you bowl a little fast, when like that game that Fredo came on the scene with Harlan Griffith in Guyana. I mean, he showed up with his hands. He said he got a cut in his hands. Fredo was fearless. Okay, Fredo was fearless. Stephen was the opposite. Stephen, if there's too much fire, he gets nervous. We used to say he got red. But Stephen was a classic batsman. And that's why you see when we used to play in my time, when Stephen captured border, because border is always a dead wicket. When they captured border, heaven help you. But you see when they go outside the border, like come to DCC and stuff, and you really throw the pace at them, it's difficult. But Stephen was a very, very, very one of the most correct batsmen, except he never had the guts like Fredo. Fredo didn't care how fast you are. He was really fearless. So they both complement each other. Of course, as a partner, they didn't last for long. I don't know how many games they opened together, but it's not like a Greenidge Haynes.
Right. 71 to 74, because Comash got injured touring with the West Indies, I think in 73 to England, and Roberts, I think he was hooking, and Roberts floored him. So they didn't last long.
And you see, the other thing about Stephen, and that's I got when I was coming up, Stephen, and that's why Stephen would get hit in his head. Stephen, normally a hooker, what you do, you get inside of the ball and you hook, right? What Stephen does, Stephen was more of a puller. Stephen gets behind the ball. You bowl a bumper, because his thing was always getting behind the ball. So he always gets behind the ball. So when he hooks, he's hooking from the ball is coming to his head, and he's hooking. Not like your normal hooker when you get outside of the line. You know what I mean? And he hooked from here. And so anytime he hooked, it would go more like square leg and those plays, because he's a puller more than anything. So if he misses, that's why he will get hit straight in his head. The only other batsman that I had seen who was a puller, I remember a guy named Harun Rashid, Pakistan.
Pakistani, yes.
Yeah, he was also he was also that type of a player. He never got outside the line. He hit it from right, the ball coming straight to his forward, and he would hit. So he goes to square leg. But most of the players get inside and hook, But Stephen, that is why Stephen would get hit, because the ball, he was really a puller. The ball comes straight, he gets behind it. Getting behind was a basic technique, but so he did that to the limit, because he got behind, and when you miss, you're in serious trouble.
Of the complement of opening batsmen we have today in the West Indies, who comes closest to being the complete opening batter in your view?
Oh, today?
Yes. Note I didn't say who is the complete opening batter. Who comes closest?
I think without question, our best opening batsman is Brafitt, but he's wanting for technique. But I don't see anybody in the West Indies right now who I would call a complete opening batsman. You know, like the likes of Greenidge and Haynes and Hunt and those that are you know, there's nobody that I can see right now in the current crop of players that I can think of. Yeah, Braffett is obviously our best. You know, I know that he's, you know, but he's always, and of course he's not the kind of batsman that you love looking at. He's a steer. He's mentally tough. Chandrapal, you know, Chandrapal. Yeah, I had very high hopes for Chandrapal, to be honest, when he came on the scene first, and the way he was batting, you know, because he was mixing, you know, he could be an attacking player, but he had good technique and he had his father's temperament. But he just, you know, he made a 74 here in this last game. But I don't know what happened to him. He just, you know, he's just not making any runs anymore. But I can't see, even I know Basil, for example, Basil likes Campbell. But to me, Campbell, and I haven't seen him lately, but he had a serious technique. If you bowl the ball around the off stump coming into him,
yes,
he's a sucker. So I can't think of anybody, strange enough, who have that technique that I can look at and say, you know, this year they've got a lot of potential as an opening batsman. I can't think of any.
Franklin, thank you very much for reminding us that Seymour Norris opened at times.
He did. Seymour Norris did. Seymour Norris did. Yep.
Yeah. But he had very serious technique.
Oh, yeah.
Not anywhere, you know.
Yes, Seymour Norris did. And if you go back and you look, and I think it was Basil who brought that to my attention one time. West Indian batsmen don't do well in New Zealand. He said, you go back, look at Lloyd and all of them. They never did well in New Zealand. And I remember Seymour Norris. You remember Seymour Norris' last tour?
Yeah,
New Zealand. Double,
256.
Yeah. So Seymour Norris had he had some serious technique. No question about that. But there again is another case where they moved up the order rather than moving down the order.
In case you're just joining us, West Indies Cricket 101, Butcher has the night off because he has a conflict. And so Dr. Adams and I are here shouting hello to Mr. Ben, who I met last night at a function, or mutual friend of ours 70th birthday party last night, and went out there, and Mr. Ben recognized me by my voice. And you know, he's living here in Guyana, he's living here in Arizona, and very ardent follower of this program and the politics program. And we had a chat, very, 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 very good chat. And like most Guyanese in the diaspora, agonize about our Guyana and where it's going.
Where it's going.
Yeah. So hello to you, Mr. Ben. It was nice meeting you last night, you and your lovely wife. And hopefully we will stay in contact. Thank you very much.
Say hi to him for me too.
Yes. Now, Dr. Adams says hi, Mr. Ben. Dr. Adams, let's move to the recent fourth round of the local competition. And I think this year I'm seeing a little bit of improvement in terms of the quality, both in the bowling, but especially the batting. Do you share that view?
Oh, without question. The most pleasant surprise is that all of the players who were on tour, as soon as they landed back, they're playing. And I have a feeling they realize that somehow, and I know because Sammy told them something that, hey, you know, you're gonna have to compete for your position. But everybody is as soon as they came back, they were playing for their countries, which is a good thing because it helps build the competition. So yeah, so and I see, and I think because of that, you can see the improvement in the standard. I think the standard was pretty high this year. And even some of the old time players are coming back and even making some runs and raising their hands possibly like Jason Mohammed from Trinidad.
Roston Chase.
Roston Chase, you know.
Yeah.
But so I did the point is they're taking it seriously. They don't like Roston Chase and the other folks, even Braffett. These guys, they I think they realize because the team is not doing so well and nobody has got a they have a permanent claim on that team, especially when it comes to the batting. So I believe that they understand they've got to dig up, and you know, and which is a good thing. It lends for company. But I'm absolutely agree with you that I see this year has been very competitive.
Yeah, and I don't know this for sure, but one can one can speculate and conclude that if Sammy is saying, look, no walking off the plane and walking to a T20 or a one-day international team, because you have guys here who are playing, and when you come back, you're denying them a place in the ODI team or the T20 team. And so we need to have a level playing field where everybody is competing and making a linkage between and among the three formats and not treating each format as exclusive. So,
right.
You know, do you get that sense?
Yes, and that's that's what I said. Because this change, which is good for cricket. So it sounds like Sammy is talking to the players, which is a good thing.
Good thing, yeah.
When he said that he's been talking to these players, even though I don't agree with him begging to, but then nevertheless, that's okay. As a leader, you got to understand your players. At least he's opening communication, which is a good thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if even these current players, they're probably seeing that he's doing that with the other players who were not playing Test cricket, and they realize, oh shucks, we got to dig up for our spot here, because if these guys decide to come and play Test cricket, then what's going to happen to me?
Yes,
I believe it helps, and I'm like you. If that's what he's doing, and I, more power to him, and I would agree with him totally in taking that approach.
Let's talk a little bit about what we saw in this round. I mean, let's start off with our youngster who looks as though he's becoming the new wonder boy. Kelvin Anderson, he 100 in the first innings, unbeaten, half century. I looked at both innings, and what impressed me is a certain kind of maturity in the youngster, and a clear approach about what he wants to do when he gets out there. He wants to spend time at the crease. He wants to make runs. Clearly, he's a shot maker, as a lot of the youngsters are. But he's complementing that shot making with some serious concentration. Your thoughts?
Oh, without question. And that's, like I always tell folks, I say, when you get to that level, everybody plays the same cover drive, they play the same on drive, cuts. It's just a matter of how consistent and with delivery you play to it. And a lot of it comes from your concentration. And he's really impressed me. Matter of fact, this is the 100 that he made is the first time I really looked at him, for a long time, batting through that innings. And he's really impressed me. His temperament is sound. His batting, his defense is solid.
Yes.
But I like him, and then to come back and then make a 50, it's that I think he's got some big place to go. And you see, the other thing that I tell folks, when you get confident, because when you get to that level again, 99% of your batting becomes driven by your confidence. And with his with those two scores and people talking about him, you watch it. He's now put himself in a position where he walks out there, he's confident, and he's not really afraid, well, if I fail and I'm gonna get dropped and that type of stuff. He's gonna walk out there. And as long as he keep that temperament, the most important thing is your temperament. As long as he keeps that temperament and that concentration and to bat long, because he's going to play shots. I remember Charlie Davis. You remember Charlie Davis, the Trinidadian?
Yes.
Charlie Davis told me one time, he said, I never look at the scoreboard. Because a lot of people know Charlie Davis got an average in Test cricket. 54. And only few batsmen got more than more. And he used to make some big hundreds when the West Indies in trouble.
Yeah.
I know Charlie tell me, Charlie said, listen. Charlie said, don't ever look at the scoreboard. You say, what I does normally do? When I leave the dressing room, I just tell the boys in the dressing room, I'll see you at tea or I'll see you at lunch. So he bats in intervals. He said, I ain't looking at no scoreboard. He said, as long as you're there, the runs will come. Bat in intervals. Clyde Walcott, the big Clyde Walcott. I remember in Case Cup, every week I make 60, 70, 80 and getting a Clyde Walcott. Call me one day. He said you got to be the world's best 60, 70 batsman. He said, what's the matter with you? He said, if you can make 10, because that's your hardest score, your hard to get. You got to know to make 20. And if you can make 20, you got to know to make 40. And when you get to 40, you got to be able to make 80 because you're well set. And when you get to 80, you tell yourself, okay, it's 160. So it's just those mental things that you go through. Yeah, but that's what Clyde told me. Because I said, your hardest parts is the first part of your batting. And if you make 10, you can make 20. He said that's a mentality you got to be thinking when you're batting. So when you get to 20, you tell yourself, well, okay, my next number is 40. And, of course, the Charlie Davis thing that don't look at the scoreboard, just play for time. Okay, guys, I'm going to see you at lunch or I'm going to see you at tea. I'll be back here at tea time. So nothing else. You blank everything else out. So those are the kinds of things that you, that I know what Chandrapal used to do because you talk about somebody who could concentrate too.
Yeah.
I don't know what he used to use, but he's another one that just a good example of that mental, capacity.
Here's hoping that young Anderson keeps at it.
Yes.
Because Sarwan spotted him about 3 or 4 years ago and said, this is one for the future. I remember that very well. Sarwan is very big on him. As the Bajans would say, very sweet on him. But
Dr. Hines, the thing is, and I'm glad that Clive is down in Guyana now. Because you need people like Clive and them to be talking to these youngsters. As long as they're gonna listen, because a lot of the youngsters nowadays don't want to listen. But if he could get a mentor such as Clive and instill in him these type of qualities, it's gonna help tremendously. It's when he makes a mistake, well, okay, and so let him understand he's gonna make mistakes, but don't make the same mistake twice. And so I know how Clive is. Clive would be more than happy to be talking to any of the young batsmen that are that he see has potential and are coming up in Guyana. So that it's a good thing that he's back home.
Yeah. And of course, Anderson is a country boy. I think he's a Irish boy.
Okay.
And you as someone, a country boy too, would appreciate that
Sure.
when you come from those small communities, not that anything is wrong in coming from Georgetown, but when you're from those small communities, there's a certain kind of responsibility because you are representing this small village.
Right. That's right.
And here's hoping that he keeps at it. Ronaldo Ali Mohammed, who I, up until this last game, I thought was your regular bits and pieces cricketer, that the new era of cricket tends to produce. Someone who bats fairly well, bowls fairly well without being spectacular.
Yeah.
But I watched him bowl, and I think he has some skills.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
And if you look at how he, he reminds me like a Sidney Matthews too. Good line and length.
Mm.
I ain't got a whole bunch of pace, but they're keeping it right there. With that kind of medium. But no, he's impressed me I think he's a legit all rounder.
Yes. Yes.
And you know what's impressed me more than anything is, and you can just tell. I don't know the guy, but you could just tell people who've got a great attitude towards the game.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Barlisle. Barlisle has probably the greatest attitude towards the game. To me, Barlisle wasn't no great cricketer, but just his enthusiasm and his energy. That's what really pulled Barlisle through. And I see a lot of Barlisle in this guy too. He looks very enthusiastic, lots of energy. When he's batting or bowling. So no, I see and the attitude is his thing. So I see that as long as he stayed, focused, and I think he's gonna do well and get somebody to work with him in terms of his pace and that type of stuff. I think he's gonna do well, and even his batting, he looks as if he's got a good temperament.
Yeah. And they say fast bowlers hunt in pairs, and you usually talk about two tearaway fast bowlers, who were hunting pair over All and Griffith and so on. But you remember Truman and Statham. Truman was tearaway. Statham.
That's right.
And they're about. And I watched Ali Mohammed and Smith.
Yeah.
Smith really tear away fast. He has to work on his no ball and so on.
Yeah.
But here was Smith really peppering the batsmen, and Ali Mohammed had enough skill to pick up the pieces there. He got 6 wickets, but easily those 6 wickets could have belonged to Smith.
Yeah.
And so he benefited from that partnership.
Definitely.
But you have to have the skill.
Yeah.
And I watched him use the crease.
Yeah.
Use he knows when to pitch the ball up, and he has a wicked bouncer too. So I agree with you that he's a serious all rounder. He's a serious all rounder.
And then you see, like you rightly said again, it's just like opening batting, because a lot of times even the batsmen, they would focus on one bowler, and then they would kind of loosen up for the next, for let's say Ali Mohammed, Smith got the pace, and and he's so you get cautious with him. You don't want to, you play him out, so to speak, and then you go after, especially a newcomer, because Smith has been around. He's been up there, and then this Ali Mohammed, he just came on the scene. And then you decide to take your chances. Well, of course, his name now is out there. I think they're going to think differently about him. But it helps the other bowler to get wickets. Not that he didn't deserve them, but it helps. Guy, you're concentrating on Smith, but here is this other guy who's putting it right where it should be to get the wickets. And then you take your chances with him, and that's what happens.
Mackenzie finally came good with a big 100.
Oh yes. Yep. Here, I'm telling you, those guys are looking looking over their shoulders. I'm telling you, they're looking over their shoulders. They're looking over their shoulders, because a lot of people made runs. And here, I'm telling you, Dr. Hines, I was in the other chat with the Guyanese folks, and everybody now coming down to the Silver and Imlach.
Yes.
And I don't think that's going to be the competition. I think Imlach has locked up his place, but De Silva is going to compete for a batting slot.
For a batting spot.
He's going to compete for a batting slot.
And De Silva opened when he first started,
Well, here as a matter of fact, I mentioned that too. I said, even if you because we're looking for openers right now.
Yes.
He could very well come in and fill that opening slot.
Yes. I like the competition. I like the competition. Somebody that you and I have a lot of time for. Youngster Wickham from Barbados. He made a 95.
Yeah.
In the first innings there. Well, the only innings, because they won by 10 wickets. 95, aggressive, positive, clearly a talented.
Very talented.
Didn't get the bowl because Barbados has so many bowlers in that team. But he's a good, I think, off spinner. But his batting, I looked at that 95. Clearly, I continue to believe he's one for the future.
Yeah, he's going to be around. He didn't, without question. I didn't see the 95, but I've seen, I've followed him a little before that. But no, without question, he's another one that's good, that is very talented, that is going to be around the scene. And hopefully, again, as long as they keep their attitude and they work hard, they got to work hard. They gotta hit the road and the hills more than anything else. When you fit, I mean, I've learned that firsthand. When you're fit, you do things, whether you're batting or bowling or fielding, that even when you aren't even practicing to do it, when you're fit, and I mean, it's unbelievable. Again, you can't explain it, but you could explain it. But you do things that is just amazing. You bat long, you don't even feel it. You run between the wickets. A lot of times, if you're not fit and you run a double, you're trying to catch your breath, you lose your concentration the next delivery. So I hope that those guys keep, don't wait until the season is about to start. Hit the hills. And I used to run the hills. And I remember, people used to think that I'm crazy. I used to run, whether it's rain or sun. And I used to be running, a man used to be going to work in the morning. And I'd be running backwards. And they thought, this guy got to be crazy. Where did he go? Yeah, but you got to, it doesn't matter. You got to make that sacrifice. But there's nothing like fitness. Nothing like fitness in that game. And I'm pretty sure in every other sport. Nothing like it.
Your boy Ruston Chase,
yes,
century, and I think a 5-4. I think his bowling has really come on, and I think playing the all format has helped him. You can tell. I don't think playing T20 cricket generally helps someone's skill as far as the red ball is concerned. But I think in the case of Chase, I think is success in the red ball, in the white ball, and his playing white ball, I think, has helped his red ball game.
Well, you remember where he started? He started really in the red ball thing,
yes.
And he is one of the players that I admire so much, Dr. Hines. Because when this guy started, remember he came into the West Indies team, and he batted down in the middle, and he wasn't anything much. You would have never thought that he would have ever become a T20 player.
Yeah.
And the boy, he just adjusted. When I saw him, I can't remember which year, he just came in and made a whole ton of runs. And I couldn't believe it's the same guy who was, who was basically like a plotter, come in and take.
Yeah.
And so I've got to admire, and the other thing I admire him about, that what I just talked about, his fitness. He's how old is he now? In his 30s, right?
Yeah, he's about 32.
You look at him in the field in terms of the catches that he takes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is a man, you talk about working hard. He works very, very hard. And that's, when people are doing those type of things, you've got to, you got to admire them and reward them for it. And I think he's well deserving of all the opportunities that he gets.
Warrican continues to bowl very well. This is showing that he has learned a lot from that Pakistan experience.
Yeah.
And he's come back and he's taken wickets. I think he's ahead of Moti in the red ball now.
I think so too. And I remember when Warrican was just coming up. Clive, I never saw Warrican, And Clive said, you know, that he's one hell of a left arm leg spinner. That was way before he even made his team or anything. When he was, Clive told me about Warrican, that, you know, Clive was impressed with him going way back. So it's nice that even though I think he learned a lot on that tour. I think he learned a lot on that tour, and for him to bring it back, whatever he picked up there, and now, you know, he feels comfortable within himself and that type of stuff. He's bowling really well now. Bowling very well.
He's certainly bowling very well. Moti got a 4 in the second innings here against Jamaica, but I'm still not satisfied that he's making the transition in between the formats. I think he continues to bowl in the 4-day format as if he's playing T20 and ODI.
I agree. I think so too. And I hope that you would look at Warrican, because the one thing that Warrican does really well is variation. He varies quite a bit, especially in flight. But I think Moti is still a little bit too quick, you know, at all times. But Warrican said that on his last, you know, it's, you know, you got to know when to just flight it, and when to, you know, when to push it. And I think hopefully Moti would learn that, you know, make that transition from you know, from white ball cricket to red ball cricket, in terms of, guys, it's a longer game.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And you might be called upon to bowl 20-something overs. So no, but you're right. Warrican, to me, he's really improved. To me, and after that tour, he comes back to the West Indies, and again, it's about confidence too, Dr. Hines. It's about confidence, you know. That I think he's very confident now.
Very confident. And of course, as a finger spinner, I mean, variation matters, because a finger spinner is much more predictable than a wrist spinner.
Yes.
And so you look at somebody like Santner from the New Zealand guy.
Yeah.
He bowls 6 different balls, 6 different pairs. And the commentators kept pointing that out. And I said, let me look at this. And he does it without changing his action.
Yeah.
But, you know, and clearly, a lot of thinking goes in to the bowling. So I hope Moti pulls it together. Sinclair has fallen off.
Yes, that's the big disappointment to me. That's a big disappointment.
I'm not so much worried about his batting, because as a batter, you know, all it takes is 1 innings.
That's right, country. Yeah.
It's his bowling that bothers me.
Yep. No, I agree. I totally agree.
And you know, he's a talented cricketer. He's committed.
Very talented. Very talented.
And so on. I just don't. But they say that he has a little attitude problem, but there are certain people he listens to. I remember Hooper saying when they were in Australia, he would call him at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. You know, so I hope somebody pulls him aside and work with him, because it's so easy to lose your way these days. It's so easy to lose your way.
You know, Dr. Hines, I think anytime you, and I didn't know that, but anytime you hear people, they don't have a good attitude, it's gonna damage their cricket. It will damage their cricket. I mean, you have to have a great attitude. Like, you know, I mentioned some names. To me, Ball Island had any talent, but the guy had an attitude that was incredible. He worked hard. He tried. And the other people who had bad attitude, they were much more talented, but they couldn't make it because of that attitude again. So I hope that he fixes that really fast. If he's got an attitude, that he fixes it really fast. Right? He's not going to get any place. He's not going to get any place.
Yeah. You followed the champions.
Yeah.
It's difficult to follow these things when West Indies.
Not here.
Yeah. I followed it too. Is India the deserved winner?
Yes, I said from day one, it's tough to be that Indian team. It's really tough. They've got depth, and they did not even play with their best bowler, Bumrah,
Right.
um, and Suraj. If he would, but that's a tough team to beat, Dr. Hines. They've got some professionals in that team, and I remember these guys, and I think the one thing why India is going to be around for a long time to beat them in any format is because of the competition and because of the competition to make the darn team.
Mm-hmm.
Look how many players. Look at these. Every time you look around, it's a new player, and there's a superstar player. They come on the scene and just making run. Look at this guy, Sky. Sky was not even in the Tech Cup either.
That's right.
Right. So they've got talent. It's a tough team to beat. Now New Zealand always play. They play there out of their skin too. They played really well. But you have to be perfect to beat this Indian team. They're a good team, and they're going to be around for a long time in every one of these competitions. Especially when I want to see what's going to happen after like a Kohli is gone and Rohit is gone, and it's just them being there. That as a young player when you're coming up and you're among these folks, you're not under a whole lot of pressure because especially they batting on the other side. When I played with Butch and them, you're not under a whole lot of pressure because you're glad to be batting with them for one thing, and you're looking over what they're doing, and there's no pressure on you. And then you in the dressing room, you've got they will be talking, they'll be advising you even in the nets and that type of stuff. And then you see what they're doing to develop themselves. So that Indian team is a tough team, Dr. Hines. I knew that I picked them from day one that they were gonna win this thing.
Yeah, and when you consider, as you say, people like Sky can't make the team,
Jaiswal, exactly.
You say, Lord, how would West Indies would dream to have a Jaiswal and a Sky?
Oh, geez, yeah.
They can't make that team. They are a difficult team. I look at Rohit innings today. My God.
Yep.
Oh, Lord, my God. And he's on his way out. He's 36, 37, 38.
Yep. And look at this guy. Look at the guy who get the wicket. So I could never pronounce his name. He did not even play the first two games, I think.
Kuldeep?
Not Kuldeep, the other one, the spinner.
Oh, yes, I know the other one that you're talking about. Yeah, he didn't play the early matches.
No, he didn't. And the man come in, but they're just showing you it's just the competition. The man just come in and just excel in the last two games and bring them through. The other guy, they got another spinner just like him. He didn't even make the team. He plays in the IPL too, but hell, even he couldn't make the team. Bishnoi. Yeah, that's exactly right. These guys, it's all over.
Yeah. I can't pronounce the one in name too. He has a nice name.
Yeah.
But Bishnoi is a handful.
That's right. Bishnoi couldn't make the team.
Yeah. Anything you want to comment on before we go, Dr. Adams?
No, well, I'm looking forward. I think Australia is coming down. Right? Australia coming down
for 3 test matches, and that's going to be in a couple of months.
I'm really looking forward to that for many reasons, with Sammy taking over. And then I believe that Sammy is going to set the tone for cricket, starting with that series. And, when he says that he's talking to players who want to play test cricket and that type of stuff. So I think that's where it's going to start. So we're going to get a really good signal as to where West Indies cricket is going when we see what happens in that series. And I'm excited, even with this tournament, this West Indies championship here, because I think that a lot of, if they pick the best team, I think we will have a good team.
Yeah.
Coming into a good competition, I think we will have a good team.
I think so too. I think our bowling can stand up against any bowling combination in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, you fast bowling in Seals, Joseph, the two Josephs. Roach is still around.
Yeah.
Older signal that he wants his place back in the team. With Warwickon and Moti, I think our bowling is good at it. It's the batting.
Yeah, I think the bowling is good. It's the batting.
Right?
It's the batting.
If we can get Chase back, and if we can get one or two of the other bad boys, the
Puran, and
King, and so on. I look at King, he's wanting with a little bit of technique. I can see the bad habit. I saw him, hang his bat outside there both times. And I think he's a better player than that. When he came on the scene, he made a big double,
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
And the other one is King. The other one is not King. The Hope.
Hope, yes.
The other one is Hope.
Hope, yes. I of all the ones the names that we've called, I think if we get Hope.
Yep.
If we get Hope and Chase, and maybe one of the others. But if we got Hope and Chase, along with Anderson and Django and a couple of these youngsters, I think we can push Australia. I really do think we can.
And I'm glad you mentioned that Django name, because here's another guy with great attitude. I looked at his interview, and that's the kind of person he's going to succeed. You see, as soon as he gets his opportunity, he made use of it. But that's another guy with a great attitude that is really going to develop.
And of course, Imlak runs this strong, but oh my God, his keeping is out of this world.
Yes.
His keeping is out of this world. I saw that guy run all the way to backward square leg to retrieve a ball. The keeper, and that's what that enthusiasm, that commitment.
Yes.
And he's turned out to be a very good leader. A very good leader of the team. So I am encouraged. I'm encouraged. It's been 30 years since 1995, and we have always been turning the corner. Let's hope, I mean, I am very critical of Sammy being the sole selector. I don't think he has the necessary certification in terms of coaching and so on. But let's give him a chance.
Let's give him a chance.
And see what happens here. If for what I'm hearing here, that no one doubts his management is management skills.
Yes.
Nobody doubted that at all. If he can use that as an entree to becoming a more rounded coach and pulls the team out of the doldrums, he has my support.
And the best thing about him, of course, I've been critical of giving him all three the formats, but like I said, the one thing that has impressed me out of the box is for him to say that he's communicating. Communicating with the player. That's what a leader does. That's what a leader does. Fine, you don't even have to tell us what you communicate, but that's what a leader does. Communicate with them, and maybe that's what was missing. Maybe that's what they were looking forward to. To see what is that common understanding that we should have between us, and so I think that's a good thing that he's communicating with them directly.
Yes, and you know what, we grew up with the managers and the coaches being 2 generations away from the players, and we see, like in England with the English coach there, the New Zealand McCullum, he's just in his 40s. Sammy's 42. He, would have played with some of the guys, or even if he didn't play with them, he would have crossed paths with them and so on. And maybe that makes a difference, because the youth culture is something, as you know, people of our generation struggle to keep up with the youth culture. Yeah. And Sammy's closer to that generation. He's closer to it, and let's see how it plays out.
Yep.
Dr. Adams, always a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
Coming around the 5th round, starting on Wednesday, and we'll be back here on Sunday. And Basil will be back next Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
And to you, the audience, thank you all for coming out. I know we had a break and broke the rhythm, but we're back, and I will see you all next week for another edition of West Indies Cricket 101 on a Sunday evening.
Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. I'll tell you now. Here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here comes the West Indies. Special request to the Trini Posse. And what about the Guyana?